we were supposed to approve the minutes.
I shouldn't be there.
That's what Susan was.
I know.
No?
That's a miscommunication between her and I.
Is it on the agenda or?
Yeah. Very convoluted.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, I have a published agenda. do you? I don't see it. We'll use this. So we're skipping the consent items?
Oh, you can do it. That's fine. That's fine. We don't do it usually on there, so.
Well, you can amend the agenda.
There's two things on it.
All right, so Bob, motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So agenda is adopted. Consent items. Do we,
Sorry, you're back.
hi Jerry. How about you? We can approve, anybody want to approve the meeting minutes from last week?
Make a motion to approve the minutes last week.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, well, that takes care of that. We'll have to sign that. We'll do that. Well, Envoy, I see we have reps from Envoy here. And we have our architect here. So everybody who needs to be here is here. So who's going first? Or are you going together?
So just real quick, Rich Taylor, from the Envoy Group. He's gonna give a presentation on build, operate, transfer. For those that don't know, the township passed a build, operate, transfer resolution. I don't remember the last year, but
It was last year.
I know, but I don't know, mid-year, I don't know the exact date. And kind of as a precursor to the building of a new fire station. Full stop, full disclosure, this is this would only be happening in conjunction with funding from St. Joe County. St. Joe County is preparing a bond, and we are trying to move this process forward so that when they bond this money, we can present, this is what we need, this is what it's gonna cost. In that bond, they're gonna be doing lots of things. Part of that is a new South Shore station at the airport. Important to note is they're gonna be using TIP funds to fund this. And this is our opportunity to get in on that piece, so they would fund the station. So with that, Rich, if I haven't missed anything, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Do you guys mind if I go up to the whiteboard just in case I need to frame anything out?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you need to do.
Thank you all for having me. Mr. Taylor, Envoy's been around since 1982. Built a few $1 billion worth of projects. A lot of our work primarily is public safety, so fire stations, police stations. Currently right now, we're building Tri-Township's fire station and headquarters, Westfield's fire station and headquarters, Frankfurt's fire station and headquarters, and then we're owner's rep for Decatur Township Fire Station and Headquarters project. We're doing $300 million worth of build, operate, transfer work right now. I have the pleasure of having sat on your guys' side of the table through a lot of important projects, so I don't take this lightly. This is an important project for the territory. in both townships, particularly what you guys have been dealing with the new data center construction, and to provide proper fire service to that new area. And I know when I've been on your guys' side of the table and run a public project, the biggest headache for me always was when I would get a change order. And you would bid a project at a certain price. By the end of the project, it would be 10 to 13% higher than what you bid. It's always the biggest headache. So when we go through this presentation, we'll talk about how the township is able to shift the territory, and the township and townships are able to shift some of this project risk and not have to incur those change orders. So BOT is what's considered a public-private partnership. Okay, it's authorized under Indiana Code 5-23. And what that means is you're going to select, if you use BOT, and on the second page here, you're going to select what we call a developer, always a developer in a construction team, to carry that risk. All risk is, just like in any business, is driven by the terms of a contract and the structure of the contract, right? So let me frame out the contract of what a traditional delivery method looks like. Okay, so you'd have the owner, okay, in this case, Olive Township, right? Excuse my writing. And then Olive Township would hire an architect and engineer, right? And then they would put those drawings out to bid to a general contractor. Okay. Now, when you bid it to a general contractor, they're going to make probably somewhere between 7 to 10%. And you do not know how much they're making on the project. Also, what they're doing is they're putting a bid to these drawings. Okay. So in this case, who owns the contract risk with an architect and engineer contract? And Whiteman's a great architectural firm, but you're holding that contract risk in this case. So if they put a number to these drawings and something has changed in these drawings, who do you think's going to pay for the change? You are, the township.
Well, but actually though, in that situation, there's a bonding typically with, when we own the project, we're protected by bonding and some other.
Yeah, you're talking about payment and performance bond. Yeah, that's the case in any public project.
Yeah, so it's not like we're totally holding the bag.
Yeah, but what you're at risk for is change orders or increase of the contract price.
Yeah, there's statutory limitations on that. That's, if you do the contracts right, you can guard against that.
Yeah, up to because it's 20%, but let's be honest, almost any time I've ever been presented a change order, it's considered unforeseen and doesn't go towards that 20%, right? So last public project I was on when I was president of my parks board, we did a $6.5 million. It was a pavilion at a park for programming and events. When we bid it, we got a contract back. We got them under contract, lowest responsible bidder. It was a company that we necessarily didn't want to work with, but they were the lowest responsive and responsible, so we had to work with them. At the end of the project, we had 74 change orders, and the cost was 13% higher than bid day. And so there are, but you do not have cost certainty here. So if you look at the contract structure that I put in the packet, you have the owner.
Yeah, here.
Oh, sorry, sir. Here, when we see, let me scoot this over for you.
Oh, you're fine.
It's down the back of your.
Yeah, fireplace in here.
So the owner, as the owner, you have a contract with the developer. Okay? And excuse the way I frame this, but in the industry, it's called one throat to choke. Instead of the general contractor saying, well, they did something wrong, and them saying they did something wrong, we work together as a team to ensure that doesn't happen, driven by the contractual arrangement. So you have the trades. Okay. So this is called a BOT agreement or a public-private agreement. Okay. And this contract structure shifts when the developer provides a price, it shifts all the risk that they're guaranteed that price to the developer. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. So let's talk about features and benefits of why this model is so much different than this one. This is becoming the model of choice. The state of Indiana's used it. Many communities throughout Indiana are shifting to this model, particularly in this market where a lot of trade contractors are filling up their book of business with, big data centers down by us, the Lilly project in Boone County, right? And so a lot of communities are moving to this model to try to protect, to shift risk. So the first one is sort of a, if we can go to the next slide, talks about risk transfer. So what type of risk do you shift to the developer? If we go to the slide 5, please. So construction pricing, bidding. Obviously, with any public project, the public unit is going to be at risk as to whether or not the project is completed. But, like you pointed out, sir, is that you have the payment and performance bond, right? So if somebody fails, you can call the payment and performance bond. The surety company will hire somebody to finish the project if whoever, but you're all, as a public unit, you're always going to have that risk, right? It's your project. You can also, under build, operate, transfer, one risk you can shift is if the developer can go out and get financing. For smaller projects, it may make sense for the developer to finance the project for you versus a bond from the county or a bond from the township. But in this case, once you get over a project that's $5 million, the county or the township or the city is going to be able to borrow the money at a lot cheaper cost, even with the issuance cost, than a developer can. And excuse me, I'm been losing my voice the last couple of days, so I apologize. Another really good benefit is the cost certainty and cost reduction. So let's talk about that. So there's a couple of different ways you can do, there's a number of different ways you can do BOT, but in this case, you can have an estimate of what the cost is, but you have no idea what the cost is until you get the bids in from the general contractor. And BOT, Whiteman and Envoy can work directly to a cost. So let's say we get through a certain period of design and you guys decide, and the chief decides he wants X in his station, and that cost is Y. You're held to that cost that is Y, which is much different. So you know that by the end of the design and process, the cost is certain. The cost is only going to be what you agreed upon, regardless of any change orders that happen, any issues related to supply chain, etc. You're shifting that cost risk to the developer. It's also a much more collaborative process because this contract structure. Because of this, I can't say, oh, well, Whiteman made a mistake or their mechanical engineer made a mistake. Why? Because we're holding the contract. If there's a mistake, it doesn't matter whose mistake it is under here, we're responsible for it. So you're shifting all of that risk. So many times what happens with general contractors, what they get very, very good at is they look at these drawings, the construction documents by the architect and engineer, and they find things that are missing. So let me give a rudiment, just a basic example. So let's say there's a structural steel wall, and on that wall, masonry's attached to it, right? And there's these little brackets that hold the masonry to the wall, right? So if in the bid documents, there's not those brackets in the masonry package, or those brackets are not in the steel package, they're not anywhere. And so the general contractor won't put a price to them. It's called scope gap. okay? So the general contractor won't put a price to them, but the general contractor knows before bid day that they're going to be able to change order to increase their contract value to pay for those brackets because you can't attach the brick to the wall anyhow, right? So they get very good at sometimes even bidding below cost because they've been able to identify all these areas in the process and the design plan to change order, increase their contract value. Because again, they don't get selected unless they're their lowest responsible on bid day. Okay. So the other thing is that the general contractor, right? So the general contractor will go out and get a mason, right? Go out and get a steel, go out and get a heavy civil to do the site, right? There are a lot of great companies in your market that don't want to go through the process of going through a public bid. They don't want to have to post a bid bond, work for 60 days to put in a bid to maybe not even get the work, right? So there's a lot of contractors that really high quality, great contractors that won't bid publicly hard bid work, but you can negotiate and get to do BOT, okay? Because you're able to privately negotiate with those contractors. So you're able, what does that mean? If you have more contractors bidding the work and working with you to get the work, you're increasing competition. What happens when you increase competition? You decrease costs.
Well, you say there was no bid?
You do bid it, but you're able to privately negotiate. And let me explain that. Let me explain that. Because the developer at the end of the process is providing what's called a guaranteed maximum price, which can't change. So if they're missing those brackets, if we work together and there's a certain type of brick that you wanted on the building and it's going to take 3 extra weeks to get there or what have you, the developer eats those costs, okay? Because we're providing a guaranteed price, okay? So the next slide talks about exactly, I think, the questions you have, and stop it, and if something comes up, stop and ask me. In our business, there's a lot of acronyms. So make sure and stop and talk to me. So in this process, you still bid it, but you can privately negotiate with them. So let me give you an example, okay? So there's a type of parking garage that's called a post-tension cast in place parking garage, okay? Basically what that means is the concrete company has these forms and they come to your site and they put the forms up and they fill it with concrete. And then there's a tensioning system that they tension afterwards, right? So it's a very specialized type of parking garage. In the Indiana market, there's maybe 3 or 4 companies that will do that type of concrete work. But there's one company that's very, very good at it, okay? And that if you want that garage being done, you want them pouring that concrete. So what we would do is we would bid it out to company A, company B, company C, company D, those 4 concrete firms. Let's say C is the lowest, okay? But C, you don't want on your project. Why? Because they're going to take a really long time. They're going to be horribly managed, and maybe their quality of work isn't that good. But over here, you would be required to work with them if they're the lowest. So let's say company A is the one you really, really want. You take all of their costs and you privately negotiate with A to get them to there or as close as possible. And then the savings in time and everything else at the end of the day is going to be a more cost-effective and quality project, right? So let's say there's a local mechanical contractor, and you want a lot of local companies on this job. Sometimes they may not have the capacity or the ability to win a public bid. Under this, you're able to do a custom contractor selection and work with the team who is going to provide you the best value for the best cost.
So Rich, are you saying that, example on the right, if We have a general contractor that whatever they select, we're stuck with. We don't have.
Yeah, you don't know who their
we don't
subs
have
are
any
over
say
there.
in it.
You're not gonna see them, because they're providing a lump sum bid on bid day. So you don't know what steel company they're working with, you don't know what masonry they're working with, right? And you have no control over that.
That's not part of the bid.
No, well, I mean, you have their bid, right? But you have no control over who they selected. And if this GC is considered responsive and lowest responsible and responsive bid, you have to select them. You're really threading the needle. You have to work with your attorney, really threading your needle to try to disqualify them if you don't want to work with them.
Well, it's pretty easy, threshold, because we can reject all bids.
Well, that's what you'd have to do, but then you'd have to rebid it.
So what? I'm just saying is that there are some trade backs, and
Yeah.
I haven't heard really I know they are there because I've done some BOTs before.
Mhm.
You're not really getting on the good side, the real positive ones. You're struggling to compare things right now that we can protect ourselves with traditional design build process.
Yeah.
Like in your case, are you guys going to, let's say it's a $3.5 million fire station project, are you gonna go borrow the money?
We can if you want to, but our cost of borrowing is gonna be higher than what it's gonna be 25 basis points to 100 basis points. So let me give a little bit about my background. So Carl Haas, he's the godfather of build, operate, transfer. He was Mayor Hudnut's attorney. He did all the P3 work for Hudnut, Ballard, et cetera, in Indianapolis. And then Mayor Brainerd, all the public-private partnerships, including all the installment purchase contract and developer leaseback deals through P3s that Mayor Brainerd did. Carl was my attorney when I was president of what was called the Carmel City Center Community Development Corporation that financed and developed the Center for Performing Arts. And I was in banking for 19 years prior to getting to this. These things are real. Now, here's the problem if you reject all bids. You reject all bids, you go out to bid again, the sub-market is like, are they really gonna do this project? Am I gonna go through the process of bidding it again? They get especially in the competitive market like this. I mean, Frankfurt had that issue when we helped them with their police station, doing BOT. Their police station, they publicly bid it. They had a budget. It came in $1.5 million over budget. The project was done. We worked with Chief Shoemaker and Mayor Judy Sheets. Within 4 months, we did private negotiation because it was already at construction documents. It was already fully bid. Already did construction documents, a little bit of VE, and we were breaking ground at their budget. So the flexibility of this delivery, it's as close as you can get to doing a private project as a unit of government. But you would not want, for the size of fire station I think the chief has in mind, it would be 25 basis points to 100 basis points higher in the interest rate.
And I know you got the rest of your presentation, but I'll say something that I sense is on these BOT things when you talk about them is comparing to the traditional design bid approach, you know what the pricing is, okay? And there's the idea that the public knows you got the best bid you could get because you bid it out, the prices came in. When you do the BOT model and you set that maximum pricing and all that, you don't really know that you're getting the best price.
Oh yeah, you write it into your BOT agreement that you're required to provide scope level bids. So you require a certain number of bidders, and then you require them to show, because here you don't know you don't know necessarily all of this, right? And you actually don't necessarily know their profit on the job. With BOT, you require transparency. So if you had these 4 bids, so what we do is we take those bids and we scope level them.
So your BOT agreement that includes that in there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's almost transparency is almost demanded in it, right?
Okay.
And so what we'll do is now, if you look at these bids just without leveling the scope, because this bid may have this piece of rebar in it, this bid may not, you have to scope level it to make sure that the cost that the cost includes the same things in each of them, right? So you scope level it and we provide that stuff all the time.
When you say scope level, what are we doing?
That means that the scope of each bid is exactly the same. So you can compare apples to apples versus apples to oranges.
Remember the
Or-
scope gap trick?
Mhm.
Okay.
So our choice would be that we could either like we normally do, send bids out, which is on the right,
Mhm.
or just select a company that then does the bidding for us. Is
Yep.
that
That's right.
our choices?
And takes all the risk.
Another advantage is. And they have a lot more flexibility when they're doing, filling in who's gonna do what.
Right.
That's kind of, I think, one of the better benefits. that you have.
100%.
Another advantage over, the traditional versus the BOT. In the traditional, you take bids, you put out public bids, you're taking bids from whoever. Under the BOT, you have an advantage where you can actually select contractors that are going to come in and put in your bid. If you tell them that I don't want contractor A bidding this because we've had a bad experience with it, they don't send it out to those people. Now, in the other way, they could put it in, they become the lowest responsible bidder, and you're stuck working with them again. So there are some advantages in that aspect also.
What would be the disadvantage of doing it that way?
So that's so I was looking, let's skip to the very last slide, because we'll talk about this and how you mitigate. Because, there's always cons, right? And it's not okay to talk about the pros without talking about the cons and how do you address those cons. Some of those, we already talked a little bit, okay? One is, so let's write out the design process, right? So you got programming. Scott, do you want to talk about these various levels of design real quick? And what's sort of included in each level of the design?
So in the programming, we're going to be sitting down with the client and figuring out what exactly it is you want within your program. So at that point, and we already know a good portion of what you want, but we're going to fine tune it in order to come up with the product so we can start designing the product that you want.
Mhm.
Then we go into schematic design, and that is, as it says, schematic. We're going to come in with a preliminary or schematic floor plans, some preliminary elevations, study, a site plan, and say, here's the relationships we have going. This is how it lays out. This is what we're projecting it to look like. Give you the opportunity to take a look at that. And once that gets approved, and we can make changes and show it the first time, you decide you don't like it, you make some changes, bring it back, you approve it. Then we go into design development. Design development is where we start to bring in further detail, and we start developing it up. So like the mechanical, electrical, and the plumbing people are going to come in, and they're going to be starting to size up the equipment that's going to be going in. And we'll be doing a design narrative at that point where we'll give a description, and that way we can give that back over to them, and they can start putting together their prices in the negotiations with all of their subcontractors. And then finally, after we get through design development, we know what it is exactly that we're going to do. Then we go into the construction documents. And we don't start the construction documents until we know what it is. This is what you want. And that way we don't get halfway through this and then come back out and say we have to change this again. We're looking to get all of those decisions made before we get into the construction document phase.
And all that has to be done before you put it out for bid.
Well, here's where it's important on how you negotiate your public-private agreement or your BOT agreement. We have competitors that say, hey, we'll set the GMP at schematic design. Okay? So if they set the GMP at schematic design, did you hear guaranteed maximum price?
Okay.
So let's say the guaranteed price will set at schematic design level of design. Did you hear all of those things after schematic design that haven't been decided yet? So if I was a developer and I wanted to take advantage, I would love for you to set GMP at schematic design, because my contingency, everybody know what contingencies are. Contingencies are used for the unknowns that pop up in a project, right? The contingency is going to be anywhere from 15 to 20%. Also, if you set GMP at schematic design, you lose control over the design and details of the project because the developer has already provided a guaranteed price here. So let's say you want those doors, okay? And those doors, you just had a narrative. They weren't specified at schematic design level, right? And those doors, the developer put in an allowance of $1,000 a door, right? Well, if they enter in contract here, they could change out those doors that look like those doors for $500 a door and pocket $500 a door.
A further explanation on that is, let's say, if you take a look at the schematic design, we're not going to get into necessarily how we're going to heat and cool the building.
Right.
And so the person that's giving a guaranteed maximum price at schematic design, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to put in here a residential furnace and it will kind of do the job, but it's covered. Then we get into design development and we're like, oh, no, we want a rooftop unit that is going to be able to air exchange and everything else. And it's like, then he comes back, well, that's not the price that we gave you. We gave you the price for the residential unit because it will do the, still kind of do the job.
So does the onus fall on us in that situation to make sure that everything is listed exactly the way we want it?
Well, so if you want the lowest total borrowing costs and the lowest total GMP and the most things, all the things are defined in the project and you know exactly transparently what you're paying for, you want to set GMP as far this way as you can because your contingency is going to be maybe 3%. Okay, versus, so remember that in this GMP, right, you're going to have the construction cost, right? You're going to have the construction costs, you're going to have the soft costs, right? And then you're going to have contingencies and allowances that are going to be in this cost. So you don't want 15% of this cost to be completely unknown and not assigned to portions of your design. Now, we have had owners that said they wanted to set GMP at schematic design, but I would never let my community set GMP at schematic design because I don't want to lose control over the design. I don't want a developer to be able to make changes in the design without my contractual approval. So it's very important when you set GMP. Okay. Now there might be reasons you might want to set it earlier. There may be very few and far between, but some of my competitors like doing this.
Where do you set yours?
We typically set somewhere between here. We have best case scenario is there. Because you're gonna have all the design finished. You're gonna be able to sit down, the chief and the team's gonna be able to sit down and see the whole, go through all we call them page turns, to go through all of the work that Whiteman's done. And so now you're approving a very specific design for a very specific price. Okay?
Yeah, so like the difference in the design development, we won't have all the drawings done, but we'll have very good descriptions of what all is going to be there. It's like, we're going to know what size the furnaces are. We're going to know what type of wall construction is. Now, we're going to have all of the different details done up for how the roof connects to the wall, how the flashing comes over. We're probably not going to have all of those details at that point. And that occurs during the construction documents. And again, at the 15% of the schematic design, I've been involved in projects that gave a guaranteed maximum price at schematic design. It was for a VA clinic in San Jose, which was probably, and this is where my example of the furnace comes in. So I did my floor plan, I did my elevations, I did my site plan, and give it to the contractor, and he gave a guaranteed maximum price, and a 70,000 square foot VA clinic had 30 different individual residential style furnaces in it.
And who knows how the developer priced. Yeah, the developer maybe in this price at schematic design, it might have been for a much higher quality unit. But if you make an approval and you sign off, right? And depending on how you work out the contractual arrangement, you got to protect yourself from this. Okay, so that's important. Okay.
Well, so I guess that's what I was trying to ask. If the selection's made at the schematic design step, it behooves the customer is gonna have to make sure that every single little item in there is exactly what they're.
And you wouldn't have that at schematic design. That's why we would say you would not want to. Now, any project you do to Scott's point is that if earlier you set it, less of it's defined. Later you set it, the more of it's defined. But some things, even when you get here, there's still some allowances,
Yeah.
right? There's still some allowances, like, you may have allowances for certain furniture, fixtures, and equipment, because those can be procured under BOT in one procurement here. So you can buy equipment, you can buy other things under BOT than just parts of the building. So there may be allowances for that, right? But there still will be some allowances. Now,
I'm sorry,
yes, sir.
what projects did you have? You said anything local around here or? South Bend?
Well, we built Hobart High School. It's not quite around here. Trying to think what else we've
The
done. up
football
here.
field?
Bricky Field.
Yeah.
We did the whole high school and the field. So it was like a $75 million
Oh, you
project.
did that field?
Mhm.
Been there many
Impressive.
times.
That was which is another delivery method, because nobody was really doing this. And it was like when people went from this and they're like, we're tired of this, we need somebody to help run the project for us. It's called construction manager as advisor, which that leads to like our transparency. Like the only way that we've ever known is that we're the agent on behalf of the fiduciary agent on behalf of the owner as a construction manager and advisor. But in that delivery, you have the owner CMA over here. Owner holds a contract with architect engineers, and then you have a multiple prime bids you put out, and then this construction manager acts as your agent to help you bid and construct the work. They still have site superintendents, project managers and all that, but they're not carrying these contract risks. The other big thing is, even if you have a 3 to 5% contingency, if you set a guaranteed price at construction documents and you have a 3 to 5% contingency, there still may be savings in this contingency. Okay. And there's two types of savings that can happen, right? And they can be the same or they can be different. So you have, let's say you have a guaranteed price of $10 million. Okay. And the project comes in at $9.9 million. That's $100,000 in savings. Okay. And then there's contingency savings. So let's say you set a contingency at 3%, but you only use 2.5%. So you have 0.5% of the project total as savings. What you want to negotiate is either return all the savings, the developer returns all the savings, or you negotiate what's called shared savings. Now there's two philosophies for that. If you return all if you tell the developer or the construction team, you got to return all the savings, what's their motivation to create savings? Right? I always end up sort of negotiating against myself. If you say, okay, we get 75, you get 25, or whatever that split is, or you split it 50-50, the team is going to be in, because let's be honest, we're all driven by incentives, whether in our job, our lives, a lot of times are driven by incentives, right? You probably go to a certain grocery store because they may have a rewards card and they give you certain, discounts when you go to the grocery store, right? Versus another grocery store that may be closer and they don't have rewards or whatever, right? Or you're not a member of the rewards. So that's a discussion you want to have internally with your legal counsel, is that, do you share savings or do you want it all returned? And we've done it both ways. But you want to negotiate savings because these are taxpayer dollars, right? And so the other thing you can do with the savings is you can increase the scope. So let's say we're getting towards the end of the project and we're sharing savings, but we have $100,000 worth of savings, and you're trying to figure out where, the department's trying to figure out where they're gonna come up with the money for the furniture, the new furniture in the building, right? That's one thing we did with Montgomery County. We actually did finance that project. Because it was, basically what happened was in Montgomery County, they were buying a senior living facility. They wanted us to privately acquire this facility because we didn't want to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we bought it like $70,000 less than list price. We financed it. They didn't want to put it on their debt service, property tax, debt service levy until they had their jail bond fall off. And so what we did is we financed the project for a short period of time because they didn't want to raise property taxes. So we financed it for a short period of time.
Leased it.
Jail levy fell off. Then they issued lease rental financing to take us out with the bond. So that's important, is that one is, here are the main things to sort of reduce or eliminate the cons of the delivery, okay? Is that one is you want them to show the scope, level bids for the transparency. Two, you want to set GMP as late as possible. Many times what we'll do is we can set, like, in this case, you want the county to have a number. So when the council is arguing about their priorities of what's going to be included that bond, you want a number to make sure that your proceeds are carved out of that bond and not taken away for another project, right? So one thing we could do is we could set sometimes we set a not to exceed guaranteed price at this level. Okay, so then you have a number that you can go to the county with and say, this is generally what we want you to reserve out of the project, out of your bond proceeds for the project, right? But then we'll continue on before we set the official GMP for the reasons I said earlier, right? So then when you set GMP, guaranteed maximum price, and then 3, the savings. What do you do with the savings? Okay. Those are 3 very important things to protect your interest in this delivery. Okay.
I got a question.
Yes.
So if you're gonna set, we want to get a number together to give to the county so we can carve out of the bond. And if we set it right past SD and say it goes up another $3 million,
Well,
then we've shot ourselves in the foot, just like you said we would over here.
yeah. The problem is that you're going to have to get that county the number, get a number so they can reserve that out of the bond when they are negotiating what's all going to be included in this bond, right? So what we'll do is we'll work with Whiteman to ensure that this number that you give the county is definitely going to cover the scope of work that the townships and the chief want in their project. Because this number, though we're going to take it contractually to here, this portion here will have contingencies and allowances for that. And we're very good at it to make sure that you don't run into that at the end of the.
So you intentionally go high?
Yes.
Yes.
Basically what we're saying here?
And we couldn't wait until we had the other 2 then.
Yeah.
Give them a number.
Well, the problem is that you're going to have to pay for the architectural design costs out of your budget to get to here. Versus here, this is a very reasonable cost. Envoy doesn't charge to here. Until you know that you have a project, we don't charge for our costs. We don't charge what's called a scoping fee or pre-construction costs. Until you know that the project's going to be funded, okay? And you have proceeds to fund it, okay? But the design team can't dedicate all their architecture team and engineering team's time without getting compensated, right? So they'll charge a small amount, relatively small amount to get to here, so you can present the county with a number and a general with the program and schematic design.
And the other piece to that is timing, right? So if the county's in the process of getting their bond information together now, And we want to get all the way to the end to try to get as close to that.
We may lose the window.
Right, we'd lose that window because what does that process take?
It's short in 6 months.
Yeah. And the feedback that we've got from the county is that they've already started to amass that information. And the other projects were already behind because the South Shore already knows what they want, right? They already have it designed, they already have their cost, they already have their piece of the bond covered.
So it'd be a hypothetical timeline here, let's say. Let's say it's gonna be a $50 million fire station. I just threw that number out.
Wow. Sounds good to me.
But that's not what I said.
That way the rumors can spread.
Yes, yeah.
What's the timeline? Let's say there's an interest in going forward with you. What are the steps? What happens?
Yep.
What contract do we sign on fees? When does money start flowing out? How much money starts flowing out?
So do you want to talk about the quote you guys provided to get the schematic design, and then I'll talk about, I have a slides in here on the process, so we can put some real timelines too.
So our proposal to them was to come up through schematic design. And unfortunately, I came from another meeting that ran late, so I didn't have time to stop by my office to pick up my copy.
I think you have it, Chief.
I have it and I can write to everybody with
And if I remember right, I think we had, was a 2-month time frame
Yeah,
in order to come up to the schematic design portion. And that gives us enough time to have our meetings with programming and be able to develop the plans at that point. So as far as on a time frame, that's what we're looking at.
could you take it
I'm
to,
sorry, 2 months from now to what
Well,
happens?
2 months from the time that we get the approval to go
to
ahead.
go ahead? So there's a procurement process that you have to
Yeah.
go through. So you've already, all township has already done the first one.
Right.
So you have to pass the authorizing resolution, right? It allows you to use the provisions of Indiana Code 5-23. The next thing you have to do is issue a request for proposals and qualifications. It's a qualifications-based selection. And that has to be noticed twice, 7 days apart in your paper of record. So you publish a notice, 7 days later, have to publish a second notice. 7 days later, the RFPQ's responses can be due. Then what you create is like an evaluation committee, okay? That evaluation committee reviews the responses and then provides a recommendation to the township board, okay? Then what happens is the township board takes that recommendation and has to hold a public hearing. It's called a public-private partnership. This is the only delivery method, one, that you have to adopt a provision to use, which hopefully the Indiana General Assembly gets rid of. And two, you have to hold a public hearing to select the person you're working with. I don't have a problem with this because it's transparency and that's no problem for me. This part's weird. Why do you have to pass something to use a procurement method? It doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. So you have to hold a public hearing, and at that public hearing, you'll state what developer you're going to enter into a scoping agreement with, and generally why you select them. Typically, there's a memo from the evaluation committee that says, we selected this team because of their experience in fire stations, their approach to the project, whatever the criteria is that you put in here. So this process, what do you think, about 30 days?
So I think that's fair because so we're actually in step 2, we're saying, we're gonna be looking for a developer to do the BOT for us.
That's right.
You're gonna be responding to that.
Yes, sir.
And we are gonna have a set of criteria, which you already mentioned some of them. Do they
Yes,
have
sir.
experience with fire stations?
Yes, sir.
What other projects have they done like this?
Yeah.
What references do you have on that?
Yep. Checking references, right? Those are important. Then once this happens, there's two ways to do this, and I don't know which ways you've done it, but you start this process to get the schematic design, which is them starting their design work. So you get the notice to proceed and you enter into a scoping agreement. Okay, so you can do it either through a professional services agreement that rolls in, that eventually goes into a bot agreement, Or many times what we do is we just incorporate the scoping agreement into
Yeah.
the bond agreement.
As part of your, yeah.
Yep, and it makes it, one is that, you know, if we get costs related to an attorney who ends up paying for it, right? It becomes cost of the work, so would you rather pay one time to negotiate with our attorney or two times to negotiate with our attorney, right? That all the project costs get included in the project, right? So,
The attorney wants to be paid twice.
yeah, right?
Sometimes more than that.
Yeah. So you'll begin the scoping process. And this is where we would just take it to here and give you that number to give the county. And then we'll just wait, right? Envoy won't charge anything as a developer. You'll pay minor costs to get to schematic design, right? So you're saying, well, what if we get to here and we hate Whiteman and Envoy? Do you have to continue with us? No. You're not guaranteed to anything till you set the GMP and you execute the BOT agreement. Okay? So let's go to the next slide with the rest of the process. So we get this check here. You get in line for the bond proceeds and make sure that there's going to be bond proceeds available to fund the project. Then we determine, okay, great. They figured out, Landon and them have figured out how to issue the bond. They're issuing the bond. Okay, great. Now we go to construction documents. Okay. This is another reason why we like going to construction documents and setting GMP. So all the way through the scoping process, the design and pre-construction process, you're not stuck with us. If we present you a design and a cost you don't like, say, so, nope, sorry, we're done with you. You can, and this is also, if you have construction documents, you say, nope, done, I'm sorry, I hated the BOT process. Rich is horrible, Envoy's horrible, Scott and Whiteman are horrible. You can actually then take these documents and put them out to bid. You have an actual product. The other thing, or you could go hire a CMA and have them do the project for you. Or you could go out to RFP for a construction manager as constructor. So you actually have a product when you set the GMP here. So at GMP, you'll have a full set of drawings. You'll have a guaranteed price. And you as a township get to say nope or yes.
So
Once
what's our buy-in up to that point gonna be?
well,
$30,000.
30,000, okay.
yeah, the SDs, yep, 30,000.
That's SDs.
Yep, SDs.
Yeah.
They'll have costs to get to CDs that you'll have to figure out how to fund. That's why I think you're gonna have to sort of wait. That's why I'm saying we're trying to do the not to exceed amount here,
Yeah,
right?
that's typically the not to exceed is very typical.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. But the official GMP and the PPA, I always believe it's best to do it here because of the reasons why I stated. That's how we just did a $15 million park project BOT. And I was adamant that my parks department did it this way. I was on the evaluation committee. I wrote the RFPQ with Brian Bosma, who's our attorney. So you get the GMP, you reject it or accept it. If you accept it, then you break ground, you move forward with the project. The transfer is whatever always gets everybody. They'll only whoever controls the property. So let's say the township, the property gets transferred to the township. We don't want to be owning the property. All we technically own that we're transferring is the improvements, the building, right? So and then after 30 days, it's typically 30 to 60 days, depending on what.
Has to be at least 30.
Yeah, at least 30.
Yeah.
It doesn't say in the statute, but it's like,
I think somewhere there is a minimum that you have to operate it for
yes,
30 days.
that's right. That's right. The key is here too. What's different here is once you get the certificate of occupancy, the general contractor's gone. They'll, you know, you can hold them to punch lists, right? And then there's warranty items, right? But because we are really developers, so we just did a $72 million mixed use multifamily development that our owners signed on the dotted line, put millions of dollars of equity in, right? So we truly are developers. So what's important is that when the transfer happens, all your mechanicals have been balanced and tested, right? You have a fully functioning operational system and building when it's transferred to you. And then, so those, you just transfer the improvements. So and then you make sure that you get a warranty. You can negotiate the warranty too. So when we did Carmel's Police Station and Judicial Center, was a $22 million project. They wanted a 2-year warranty. And now it costs you money, right? Those equipment manufacturers and trades companies, they're gonna charge you to extend a warranty past a traditional warranty period. But you can even negotiate the warranty period to be longer than the standard 1 year. Obviously, you have things that have longer warranties, right? But questions? A lot of good questions.
You gave me the timeline on all this. Where are we at with? So we approve this, we get these guys started. Is that the first step?
No, I believe the next step is the RFQ, RFP piece, right? We have to advertise that. We have all the documentation to get it out there. And we're gonna go through that exercise regardless. Internally, our next process is talking about the funding for because separating two things, we still have to get to the SD piece of this. And have some tangible, because again, the county could go, you know what? We're just not gonna do this. And then we are where we are. And then, so the calculated risk for the fire territory is the $30,000, right? All this aside is the $30,000. It's one thing, in my opinion, it's one thing that if we spend this money, we have a product to move forward if somewhere down the road we need it, right? If somewhere down the road financing falls through, the economy goes to heck and all that stuff, and the county's just not willing to do this, we're not going to put that burden on our taxpayers. So we just shelve the project, and then in 10 years, say, yeah, the construction costs are going to go up, all that stuff is going to go up, but we still have a solid design that's going to be livable moving forward.
If you get to you said we get to the SD point, and then it said stop and wait, see what the county's gonna do. Is there a time frame on that? You've got 90 days, you've got 1 year,
As far as what this amount would be, yeah, we would need to discuss that and work very closely to understand the county's timeline, because that will determine the escalation factors we'll include in our not to exceed.
Do we have a guess on the county's timeline?
I just, this is the Carl Act.
I
The
get
Carl
it.
answer is, we are already working on the bond. That's not a date, that's not anything. We're already having meetings for this.
I think we have to ask Steve Dalton specifically.
Mhm.
And I'm still waiting an answer from Phil and some other questions, but I think Steve Dalton may have a little better feel.
Yeah.
Exactly where we're at.
I'm just wondering, like, if we get to the point, and they're saying, $10 million. And we said, good, that's cool. Now we'll wait on the county, and then 6 months later, we're still waiting on the county, and now they're saying, well, now it's gonna be $11 million. What happens?
Well, here's how we deal with that. Let's say you give a number to the county at this level and they take 12 months. Well, what ends up happening is if the county's only willing to fund that amount, you'll lose scope.
So you start cutting.
Or you find another source of money or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for it. I mean,
right.
yeah.
You'd have to value engineering. If we would have to go out and get financing, but So so BOT financing, if we went out and got financing, we don't create a debt service levy. So whatever that payment is, it comes out of, your general fund. It doesn't, that's another risk with developer financing is one, you can only get a fixed rate for 10 years versus 20 to 25 with the traditional bond. And then the rates they're going to adjust after that 10 years. So there's interest rate risk. Now you can negotiate what's a collar. A collar means that, let's say the rate's 5% fixed for 10 years. And in 10 years, the bank, you'll say, well, we'll negotiate a collar. The rate can't go up any more than 2%. Well, if you do that, one, they're going to charge you a higher interest rate up front. But two, they're going to say, okay, well, then I'm going to put a collar on the bottom end that if rates tank, your rates can't go any lower than 1% or 2%, right? So you can hedge that a little bit, but it creates interest rate risk. So one, it doesn't create a debt service levy. You issue a bond, there's a specific levy that repays it that's outside of your general fund. If you do the BOT financing, it's called subject to appropriation debt, almost like local income taxes now, but Representative Thompson is fixing that in Ways and Means right now. But that payment it doesn't create new revenue to make that payment. It has to come from your existing revenue. So you have to, that's why I've done a lot of BOT financing, but it has to be used in a very specific reason and just for a very specific purpose, because it's not many times not advantageous. I would say about $5 million, because in a bond, you'll have a bunch of issuance costs, right? That reduces the amount of proceeds that are significantly higher than BOT financing. BOT financing, you can close for like $50,000, where a bond issue, you're going to have underwriter's discount, right? Could be $100,000. You got bond counsel, you got all the advisory fees, right? So it reduces the amount of what you actually get net proceeds, right? But you shouldn't listen to me. So first of all, there's many in the market that will go out there and give you municipal financial advice. I am not a licensed municipal advisor. You should not listen to me. I'm not a fiduciary agent on your behalf. You have a municipal advisor at the county, you have a municipal advisor at the township. They should be telling you what's in your best interest to finance the project, right? Because they're bound by SEC law as a Series 50 licensed municipal advisor to only do what's in your best interest. A BOT developer is not a licensed municipal advisor. So you gotta be very careful about who you're listening to for financial advice. And that's your licensed, you should listen to your legal counsel and your municipal advisor.
How soon after, let's say we started this, would you guys be able to start construction, and how long does construction take on something like this?
So you said, so this is a low end 6 months, probably 9 months at the high end. So the design period is 6 to 9 months.
Okay,
Say 30 days, 30 days for bidding and scope leveling the bids and validating everything, right? Break ground, and a typical fire station takes anywhere, depending on the build and the size, I'd say 11 to 13 months.
or here.
Just so because I'm always confused, as you know, just in my mind. So if we say, let's advertise this thing, do we have to now go to the town and the township and Hudson Township and have them say advertise it tonight?
No,
Or is it
this,
the fire chief?
this process, and stop me if I speak incorrectly, we would be taking an additional appropriation from our cash reserves. That's kind of what we're still,
You're talking about to get to the 30?
yes.
Yeah, but starting the process, the provider unit's gonna,
Right.
So that would be all.
Right.
yes.
But that's why we invited everybody. This isn't a unilateral decision, right? This is bigger than that.
I guess that's my question. At what point do all three boards have to agree?
The two decisions are you going to appropriate money? So there's a process that they'll take you through to appropriate the $30,000 to pay for design costs. And then the other process that he'll lead, which is the RPQ process. Well, yeah, on your bond ordinances, or your appropriation ordinances, you require the public hearing and two notices, two readings.
For the township does anything other than what's required by state law.
Mhm.
I don't know if the town has anything special or different on that, but I was just looking at our interlocal here on, at some point, the spending of the money for the territory benefits would be going to separate vote to each unit.
That's what I was wondering.
Mhm.
Do we know what that point is?
I would say when we're going to borrow money to build, so I'm not think that we're gonna necessarily be doing it up to that, through that $30,000. Okay?
No, and I don't know, we would be borrowing money to build anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're gonna. use it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The project doesn't go, if
yeah,
we don't receive those funds.
right.
So
Well,
let's,
You're totally relying on the bonding.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Then it's really like if Olive is gonna bear the cost of that.
Not to be difficult, but the first step in the design was programming.
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything that says we need a building with 5 trucks and 1 boat
Mhm.
and, X number of beds and all that stuff.
So I think,
Because
I think you,
And I
I think,
think that should be approved by everybody.
well, I think you should have
Community knows we're
discussions.
building.
You should have discussions on
Right,
that
but-
as we
but-
develop, like,
From your standpoint, or if I tell you I need 12 bays and 12 trucks and X all that. Would,
I said 5 trucks.
no,
I didn't say
no,
bays, I said trucks.
right, no, I'm asking you.
We heard about the exotic arrangement that was down in one fire station down here that you said we didn't need.
What do you call it?
Union
Exotic?
Township?
Union Township.
Yeah, I think
I've never
so.
talked about Union Township.
Warren.
But to your point, sir, is that appropriating the $30,000 is what gets you to that square footage in that program.
I think, yeah, I could go back to what is program?
Yep, programming is the square footage. You want to talk more about the,
Programming is where we're going to sit down with the fire, and we're going to find out how many trucks are you gonna have, how many bays do you need, how many beds do you need?
That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
And should you,
And we've got some of that already was provided as far as on a general size, that's, but this programming, from what we take from that, we're gonna take that and develop it further. So the basics though, that I understand are a 5 bay, I think it was 14 bed minimum. And I think there were 5 offices, if I remember correctly, a training room, conference room, you have showers, lockers, etc. Boy, too long of a day today.
well, but again, in a format that can be shared and discussed.
yeah,
Because before we come up with a request to proceed to spend the $30,000, which I think we would do with each board, we would want to say, this is what it's for. Even before you start laying out floor plans.
Well, I think that's naturally gonna flow out when we have a discussion on setting up the qualifications that in the request.
right.
Because we're gonna say, we're looking for a developer to come in and help produce, and here's the program that we're looking for. So you're gonna be having those discussions. Now, you can certainly schedule a special meeting to flush that out or feel comfortable with it, which is fine. I don't,
Yeah, I think that was.
The other part of that is what happens with the existing building and how they work together.
Right.
To be able to start the discussion with the big picture,
Right,
rather
there's-
than,
there's
rather than here's the floor plan.
Right, there's so many unanswered questions, and we will have to have a special meeting for that piece, because that's how it operates. How do you go from a one-station system? Jerry's concerned, how do you staff that? Where does all that money?
yeah,
come
that, at
All
some,
those-
go
yeah.
ahead. At some point, we're gonna have to decide, let's say we decide Envoy's great, they got a good offer and everything. At some point, we gotta invest $30,000 in it if we're interested. But that's gotta be squeezed in somewhere between when it is gonna pass by the county and when we have answers to how much of the initial payment for the building, for our trucks, for our workers. And then what, in 10 years from now, who's paying for this stuff too? I mean, that's gotta all be answered, I would think.
And it,
Those kind of,
a lot of that all gets answered through the process, because again, you're not building the station or committing to move forward with the station until you set the GMP and execute the bond agreement and move forward. The request for proposals and qualifications will have a general scope of work that talks about it's gonna be a 12,000 square foot facility with 12 bunks and 5 bays. It may list the site if you've identified the site yet, or there's a site to choose. It may not, a lot of times they don't have this. Many times the community doesn't have the site yet. And so that's what, so when you do the RFPQ process, you'll have a general description of what the project's gonna entail. Then you make the selection of your developer and team. They'll refine that general scope that's in the request for proposals and qualifications through an official scientific programming process. Okay? Then once they're done with programming will have they'll refine square foot of the building, generally where things are located within the building, right? Do you want, I'm sure Chief doesn't want all the bunks on the other side of the building and the bays on the other side, and they have to run all the way across the fire station to get into their apparatus, right? And then you go to schematic design, now it's gonna be even furthermore flushed out. You'd have elevations. You'd have generally what the building looks like from a pretty picture outside of it, right? And then this is where we would provide, here's the cost you need to provide to the county to make sure they include this in your bond. Then you'll move forward from here to go forward. Now, you may have a 12 bunk station because you want to build this station for the next 50, 75 years. You don't want to build it for the next 20 years, right? So their process will identify, and you've already had sort of a study done too. Their process will identify, well, it may be 12 bunks that we build it for, but right now we can only afford to staff 8 bunks in these apparatus, right? Because you're 100% correct. This process is about the guaranteed price of the building. And then you're going to have to time and work with your team and advisors to say, okay, let's say in 2028, this building opens up, and our budget in 2028, what are we going to be funding for operating costs?
we don't even know if like Hudson Lake is gonna even be a township then either. I mean, they're one of our partners on this, so.
So that's where I was,
Yeah,
I was trying to, my point was what kind of monkey wrench could get thrown in this with the groups that have to vote on it, because if Hudson Township goes away, how do we, now it's
Right.
Hudson Kankakee, and they say, oh, I don't like that fire station over where the water tower is, I don't like it.
I think ultimately, it's one of our biggest hurdles right now. We don't know what they're gonna do over the next couple of weeks to solidify township,
In the state.
whatever they.
Reorganization.
Reorganization.
If we need to, we could work with Teshka and set up or somebody and set up a call. And I mean, Elena's a friend of mine. I can call her, I can set up a call. And then we could see if we can get a hold of Buck and even Debbie Driscoll, I think, can provide some information. Because you don't want clarity. The key is also not only what they're gonna pass, but when is that gonna be effective and be required to be implemented?
Yeah.
So like our township, who's funded most of our projects, under Buck's bill stays. Because our township is the same land area as our city. And our township is funded almost our entire park system and 3 of our fire stations. So under Buck's bill, it stays. Under Schonkweiler's bill, it goes away. So,
I think there's an amendment on that one right now that's like, if you're in a territory,
yep,
you stay.
yep.
Uh,
That was, and she was adamant about that. Her husband's a cop. She's a big public safety supporter.
Because when it started out, it was like, if you provide fire protection, you can stay. Well, then that threw a question about the territory.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an amendment to say if you're in the territory, you can stay too.
I don't recall, but was there a study or report done about the need for the fire station at a basic level? I can't
At a
remember.
basic level, when we started this, it started with our fleet and department analysis.
Mhm.
And it identified in that bit that as the IEC started to grow, we're gonna need a new fire station in that piece.
So that's
We
a
actually paired
document
it,
that all
we should already have.
our council members and residents, anybody can look at
Mhm.
that.
It's
So,
a
so
couple of years old at this point, yeah.
I'm just jumping around a prior question. So I'm looking at the interlocal, so, spending money on this would be appropriate out of the equipment replacement fund. Okay. So, it says the participating use may acquire blah, 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 blah. And approved by Allen Township Board, Hudson Township Board, and New Carolina. All such major acquisitions must be approved by the executive committee of the fire territory. So I think it is going to the boards and the executive committee under our interlocal.
So we'll go to the executive committee and then each individual board? Or-
Yeah, I would say it would make more sense to do it that way.
I'm just trying to understand how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta know the process.
What we probably know about the township thing.
Haven't seen- when-
By
when-
the end of February,
In the what?
February. Even if they pass if the House passes its bill, you now have two bills.
And then they're gonna have
And they're gonna have to put them together, and by law, they gotta be done with it, but the short session has to end at the end of February, so somehow or another, they gotta fix it by the end of February.
And Buck's bill on the Senate side will go to the committee that Shockweiler's in. Who's pass and ran the House bill, and then Shockweiler's bill is gonna go to local government, which Buck is chair. And so if they make changes, they have to reconcile those two issues, right? And then it usually goes to conference committee.
So it could die.
Yeah, it could, this whole bill could die. My representative is not necessarily 100% confident that this makes it out, because it's a very short time frame. They're out and they have like 3 weeks.
And to that point, this RFQ, RFP process plays out. If something happens, we react based on how that happens. Because if it looks like, say Hudson, is gonna merge with another township or go back to depending on which version you're looking at. Or nothing happens to it, there's decisions that have to be made, because if we were to lose a partner on any level, which I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but if you lose that changes the whole dynamic. I mean, you just can't. It pretty much dies in the water, right?
Or you have to update the interlocal because you have a new partner.
Right. So there's still a lot of unknowns here, right? It was just, it's very dynamic at this point. Okay. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah,
But let's say
there's more opportunity.
you are able to, so it's gonna take you a period of time to appropriate the money. And then let's say you started the process for the bot procurement. It's gonna be past the end of the session. It sounds like before either one of those things happen, do you think? Based on noticing times and everything else? I mean,
Well, I think to make sure we're all on board with going forward, using that money out of the equipment replacement fund. Yeah, that would take at least a couple weeks.
yep.
And then,
That's the fire territory's money.
yeah, it is the fire
Yeah, okay,
territory
yeah.
money. So
Replacement, right.
your executive committee meet 40 hours, have that meeting.
Mhm.
And then we got to see what the other units are gonna go along with that. But
And that's that $30,000.
yeah, because if we're not willing to commit to that, then you're not gonna get the number to go to the county to
Yeah.
say, put this in your bond. So you are spending $30,000 at a chance to get a bonding for not 50 million, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
45.
you just saved us $5 million.
I
Good job. But,
Well,
Yeah.
Pete, what's your opinion of us then sustaining this? I mean, what happens? I mean, how do we pay for, you know, our employees 2 years from now? And any new trucks we need, and how's that to be done? Do you have any idea what they're gonna say?
The county, you mean?
You've been around, yeah,
the county?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
The
thinking,
county,
I don't think, unless they can get more
I just
tax
talk
money
as
to us.
frankly, I'll talk as frankly as I can.
Okay.
I think the county's in somewhat disarray right now because they got, they're not getting along like they need to do at the council level.
Mhm.
And that can affect some of the things that happen.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate, but that's what we're seeing. Andrea, what do you think? You see what I see?
She says, please don't ask.
Yeah.
I think I think we saw it with the whole data center. There's a general disagreement about what direction the county should go.
Yeah. And they're not in alignment with the commissioners either, so.
I mean, what power do they have to even get us?
The
There's more tax money? or-
council's gonna have to approve the bond if it's a county bond.
Yeah,
So,
well, I'm not, yeah, I think they can improve the bond, but I mean, I'm just thinking 3 or 4 years down, who's paying for all this?
Well, the
As far
money,
as
I think that, I think your bigger concern is, you're seeing fire departments consolidate right now. You're seeing the southern part of our county consolidate. You're looking at the northern, eastern side consolidate. That's coming for us here, 100% targeted on us. So we bury our heads, and we will be clay fire territory at some point. And because we won't be able to afford to do business.
Or be
How-
back
how
to
would
just
this-
how we were and
how
not
would-
able to
how-
service.
What's your feeling how this would stop that from happening? Not necessarily.
No, this just prepares us for that future. We're gonna have the difficulty putting butts in seats. Until some of this other stuff plays out, we don't know that. I can't tell you that. I can't even, we're not even recommending you spend this $30,000 yet. Cause we don't,
Yeah.
we need some answers before.
here's what I think is gonna happen in 10 years. Okay, and you're not gonna like when I say this. That fire truck is gonna come to a scene with no driver, okay? And it's gonna dispatch machines that come out of that fire truck, okay? And there might be 1 or 2 people at a scene.
You want me to kick you now?
It's coming. The AI it's there already. And it's because you can't find the people to do it. Now, on the medical service side, that's a little more complicated in your ambulances. That's where you really gotta concentrate, I think.
You're saying firefighting, you see it as
I see firefighting become a machine operated.
robotic?
Yes.
Breaking my
Same
heart.
way that I see 38 data shells becoming 10 data shells as things move up into the air.
So with a car flipped over in a snowstorm in a ditch, with people hanging out, that AI machine can come up and take them out safely, where a firefighter can't do it no more.
I think it's gonna, you might have 1 or 2 firefighters there supervising the operation of that equipment. And the equipment's gonna do it.
So the
Here
medical
here could be the really transformative piece
Anything.
for operation funding is you have to work really, really hard on your county council for them to pass that fire EMS lit and then ensure that they dedicate it to the units that are providing fire service.
But that's been a battle for, cause I know you guys have approached for sharing lit, Clay's approach for sharing lit with the council.
And as well.
And they don't even consider, really.
But the fire EMS lit can, if they pass it, can only be used for EMS and fire.
Yeah. If they, and that would be helpful. That's to answer your question, Jerry, really. But we need to have actually some line item on the tax bill that's specific to fire and
Yeah.
ambulance at the county level.
I think Jerry's asking has a really legitimate concern, but I
Yeah.
think that the county recognizes that, you know, they can't get their act together on how they're gonna do it. The money's gonna be in a TIF somehow or another. It's gotta get taken out of there. They understand that they started this monstrosity, and so they have to they know they have to do it.
Yes, they
So
do.
how it gets done isn't really a question of how they're gonna pay for it. It will get paid for. The question is, they can't seem to make up their
It
mind.
seems
how they're-
like the county would want to see some sort of document and assurance from us that it would be sustainable in 5 years. You know, we've got all the bells and whistles, we got the building, we've got the trucks, everything, the county pays for it, but how do we pay for all these new people and things? So it seems like the county would want to see that we can show
That's
that
what
we
I'm asking,
can-
is there,
yeah, that
what's
we
the
can
path forward that they
manage.
could do? What's their options that the county can do to make this happen?
The path.
Raise our taxes, maybe they can get us more tax money.
It's sharing money, it's sharing, so the St. Joseph County does not, hasn't maximized its lit rate, okay? They got room to do it, especially on the public safety side. You'd have to put pressure on them to maximize that and share it, and if we get another lit provision from the state.
Mhm.
But if you don't have that, you're kind of limited, other than levying it more on the property tax when you expand or, and even new territories now are capped at 40 cents.
Yeah.
So that's the path forward, you see.
You have to expand an
potentially.
existing territory right now, is the only path forward,
Geographically,
or a countywide fire district.
geographically, we have to expand, is that what you're saying?
You have to expand, the olive territory has
That's
to
what John's
expand.
feeling. It's gonna expand.
Okay.
It's going to.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing that with Liberty and Green. It's expanding now to include Center.
Well, and just like with, the St. Joe County Fire
Warren
Territory,
Portage, yeah.
Warren, that they came in and talked to us and all that.
What the best thing you can do is provide them data. One is, what is the cost to do what the department needs to do from a facility standpoint? And then projections of what, based on, because you have the study, you'll have the cost of the building, and then what is gonna be the cost to operate this thing? You have to be able to provide them that data.
Along with your.
Yeah, this would be the cost of the physical property.
The trick here though is, and we can do that, it's where the body's gonna
Yep.
come. Because it's not fungible work here, you need people with special training,
Yeah.
medical training, a desire to do it. I mean, you gotta go from 0 to 100 in no time. They gotta put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
So there isn't, when I was growing up, it was like, who would I have to call to get in line to be considered in 2 years from now to be a fireman? Okay, well now, you can go try to tackle people on the street, they won't come. And that's, I don't know if you got a big line of applicants, but
I mean, literally, I think we took in 50+ applications last time and we ended up with 3 people.
well, it's pretty good that you graded 50, but.
Right, but people, I personally, I think people are filling them out for their unemployment. If I have to be honest,
Okay, well, I mean, we don't, it's hard to find the qualified people to staff. That's a bigger concern. That's why I think we're gonna be forced into some robotic, assistance.
Data. As much data as you can provide, that you can make informed decisions on data.
But
3 years ago, when I first sat in this room, the issue was you couldn't find volunteers anymore. So now you're saying it's gone all the way to,
right?
or is it just the wage issue?
Well, it's becoming the wage issue, right? Everybody keeps pushing their wage.
that's an issue, but it's also, like desire to do the work, okay? I mean, I think that's an issue. I don't know, like, the kids grow up playing cops and robbers and fire guys and soldiers anymore.
Police is very difficult to recruit and retain right now, even more difficult than
Yeah,
You're running across that in all professions. It's like a teacher, you have a hard time putting teachers, and it's because everybody wants to be an influencer instead,
yeah.
because it's easy.
I don't have a YouTube channel.
What is
All right,
the-
does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause here? I mean, is there anything else we gotta contribute to our
Scott, were you done
conversation?
with what you were doing? Rich, were you done?
Just answer questions.
No, I will say, I know I gave you a little bit of a hard time,
That's your job, isn't it?
but the BOT thing, the way I see it, why is it not? Why is it good? Okay. We can have progress in a very nimble, flexible way,
Mhm.
okay? And the reason it makes sense, and I think the reason it got put in the books is like, over time, you get to know who are the reliable, good contractors that can do the project the right way. So the BOT process kind of lets you really pick the team you want to do the project.
Mhm.
You cannot do that in the traditional bid process. And that, I think, saves you time getting to the end product with the team that you want.
Well, we got caught on that in our renovation, I feel like, so, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
It's a good way to go. If really we want to gamble some money to see if we're gonna get in the bond.
So at this point, knowing that we have a month left in the legislature, by the way, that Senate bill that passed got sent. The guy that got sent to the House to get through is the guy I went to college with. So I'm trying to find some like nasty pictures of him or something. But at this point, are we waiting until we see what happens with the township or?
Well, I think the process plays a little bit, right? I mean, we still publish the RFQ, RFP. We get to that point, so when we can make that informed decision. The other part that, you know, we're gonna add that money back into our bond ask, right? So it's not like we're fronting them. I don't wanna make that clear. But, so the process moves along, again, it never moves forward till we go to the town or Hudson Township or all that to ask for that $30,000. Get this going. But, so,
I think the real risk of waiting around, at some point, it can move faster and we're not ready to move along with it. We may miss an opportunity. And if we don't have a decent idea on a number, okay, let's say we just come up with 18 million, it's really 20 million, because we didn't do the correct process. That $2 million is a lot of money. Okay, and had we spent the $30,000, we might have had a better idea on a better number that's closer to where we need to be.
I guess what I mean is we vote on the $30,000 at our next meeting, we wait until, what do we do?
I would say that
we should probably have another, I don't like the meeting things to death because I know everybody's time is important. But we also need to work through some of these issues that Jerry's brought up and concerns that the town may have for, you know, Hudson Township. 'Cause, you know, Mike's gonna relay this, and I know Austin's online, but there's still gonna be questions. We need to answer those questions, but we need to be, to Keith's point, we need to keep moving until we either make a decision.
I agree, I just want to know what the next move was. That's all.
Well, our next meeting is what, the third, is that where we're at now, the third Thursday? Is that what we decided on?
Third.
If you're asking, I'll tell you.
Of course.
I think that I agree with, and I'm sorry, I'm Allison, I don't know your name. Keith. I agree with Keith. I think there needs to be more information. I think that, you know, I understand moving forward, but you're jumping into square footage and what you need and everything. I think you need to have your wish list or your needs list given prior to all three entities, so that everybody kind of knows what your game plan is. You don't have to have it solid, but I think we need that type of information, not just, hey, we need $30,000 so we can give you more. No, I think it needs to be more transparent on our end. Because to be honest with you, I started reading minutes because I really didn't get involved with the fire territory. I'm not the liaison. And then all of a sudden I'm like, a station? I never heard that we're gonna have a station out there. And I think,
That's too bad that you haven't been relayed that information through the
well,
different meetings.
and
I bring up the fire territory every one of our meetings.
we do, but I don't think I've ever specifically heard a station out there. And if you did, Jerry, and I missed it, I'm sorry, because you know, you sit next to me and sometimes I ignore you. But I think that you need to set those things out and be a little bit more specific. How this station would work with that station. What's your thoughts on it? Not that it can't even change, but more information like that, I think I would be more inclined to say, yeah, let's vote for 30,000 and see where we're going. But without that information, I'm sitting here going, nope, I'm not for it.
I guess the real thing we need to know is when do we think that the county would actually pass this budget, for this bond? And we have to beat them and we need 2 months to do it?
I'll
Isn't
call
that
Dalton tomorrow.
Isn't that what the race is?
Yeah, Pete will get a hold of.
I'll call their financial
Yeah.
advisor tomorrow just to see what,
Get a
where
feel.
they're at.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, oh, we're not anywhere near it,
Yeah.
or, oh yeah, in a couple weeks, we're gonna go forward, or,
Yeah, we'll get a better answer than,
Yeah.
what we're getting here.
yeah.
And I agree with that too, but I think that we need to start on that lower level too, so that we're all in agreement with it and we're not fighting within the territory ourselves. I think that needs to happen.
Like, do you wanna do a joint meeting? I think when you hear like that, she's telling you exactly what you need to
Oh,
hear, so
I,
give it, you know.
And I do want to say, I'm at all these meetings and on the committee and
Literally.
everything. And it's difficult to relay everything that's talked about. And also, I don't even know, like you say, a couple of years ago, that's a couple of years ago. Things just happen so fast. And so now we're talking specifically about another station, but we don't talk about it all the time about specifics about another station, So I think just some of those documents compiled together to just give an overview of this is where we've been, this is where we are, this is where we're headed, it would just help because it's just really difficult, I think, to do a Cliff's Note version of fire territory and other boards, to be quite honest, unless you're here, and even I'm here and it's still, okay, now it's like go time with this.
Well,
But
Pete, why don't you find out when, and then let Josh know if we have to have another meeting before the third Thursday of next month, we'll do so.
Yep, absolutely.
If there's a crunch,
Yeah.
if they say, hey, it's months away or, 6 months away, then we just wait till then.
Well,
That would be
and
my thought
one
on
piece
what
that
to
you
do.
might want to include in there is if Hudson goes in with Kankakee. And let's say Kankakee comes into our territory, because you're talking about expanding. And what areas would possibly, not saying specifics, but the possibility of that. So let's say it is Kankakee. I'm just using that as an example. Does Hudson Township and Kankakee want a station all the way into St. Joe County? Because they already have one in St. Joe County, or would they want something out towards closer to them?
Right.
Big plan is tree stations.
Well, that would, see, that's a rabbit hole, right?
What you
Because
about the-
I would love to tell you, I would love to say, hey, let's Wills and Hudson, because we have a relationship with both of them, right? Wills and Hudson. It's a huge area.
Mhm.
The problem is that Hudson Township and Wills Township goes, no, we don't want a station out there. Well, I appreciate that, but St. Joe County is not gonna fund a station in LaPorte County.
Correct.
So now we have another, now we need a third station, where does that money go?
Yeah.
And so my point is, it becomes a rabbit hole for me to go, oh, we're gonna project X, Y, and Z.
Because
I mean, I don't
Okay,
do that enough.
but it might
Maybe
be
start-
that you want a station out there but maybe you need to start with this station closer to where you're going to be serving this. And that station is what, 2-3 miles out from where we're at now? You gotta look at, I understand your rabbit hole, but unfortunately, you got a gopher station going underneath everything and you gotta figure that out. As a town council person, I'm looking at it that way.
So when you look at standards of cover and the response times when the emergency counts, that's what we're looking at, and that's what this divide here would be between these two. So say we include Wills and Hudson, well, Hudson's already here, but say we include Wills or Kankakee, and there needs to be another station out there. Does New Carlisle Town want to contribute to a station in LaPorte County? Or do you work that into the agreement then of when they come in that, okay, but you need to build this station because we have to live up to the standards
I'll
of
be
cover.
honest with you, I don't want to put it out in the IEC. I'm against that. Do I want to do LaPorte County? No. But am I going to look at the whole? Yes, I am.
Absolutely, and we will too, but that's what I'm saying is with standards of cover, because when we looked at Wills Township before, we cannot cover that without adding station and personnel out there. Because if we can't cover it adequately, why would we cover it at all?
And I can respect that. I can totally respect that.
And that's,
But
so I think that.
I
if
used to
anything
live
gets in
out by
there,
the
they're gonna have
IEC.
to-
And I know how long it took response with the volunteers to come out to my farm out at the IEC. I could give you stories about that. I get that. But the IEC doesn't give to our town. We're fighting with the county at all ends, all different respects. So I understand where you're coming from.
But then.
But
there'll
you gotta
also be-
understand too, that you gotta look at all the rabbit holes.
And if they put the station, you have your increased personnel which is responding to your emergencies too, though, that's the benefit that you get.
And where's the money coming from and where's the sustainability? And this is not just something I'm saying for the fire territory. If you ask my constituents, I'll say this about the town. I'm all about sustainability. And I say it constantly. In fact, they're probably sick of me saying it. But every aspect of this is sustainability.
But the one question I have with the IEC, because I think for the most part, IEC gets a lot of shade, but INTech and INCO reside in the IEC.
I'll give you a lot of stories.
No, but what I'm saying is INTech, INCO in the town?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what percentage of taxes do they pay? Right, so
Big
I'm
chunk,
just throwing that out there is
big chunk,
we have a responsibility
60%.
to all of them. We're beholden to the townships and the town, so we get put in this situation where
I know technical.
we serve multiple masters, right? We have, everybody that we have to be concerned about. And so you set me down this mission of, let's look at all of our broader options. Let's do these mole holes and rat holes, right? But we still, when we're talking about where we're gonna put this station, it's gonna benefit the town. Doesn't benefit a huge taxpayer of that town, because now we're closer to that. So let's say that the town decides to annex at some point. I'm not suggesting.
I know, and it's probably not gonna happen, but I get what you're
If
saying.
it does, like INTech, INCO does, then it truly benefits the town. That's another rabbit hole that I can't go down because I don't know your guys' future plans. That's not my
I
function.
get it, but I guess on my end, and I am not asking you to give me definitive answers. But just sitting here, listening to everyone, and this was a wonderful meeting. I can't say I'm gonna come to all of them, but this was a wonderful meeting. You still have to look at the growth. That was the one thing that I heard here, is that your township's gonna have to grow. You're gonna have to look at what direction you wanna grow. Whether you're going to do Will, you're gonna do Kankakee, you're gonna join in the St. Joseph County, you better have some type of plan. I know when we're talking about projects, We have to come up with a plan and we have to talk and go all different routes. I'm not telling you, oh, we're going Kankakee. No, I'm not asking for that. But if you are and you need that third station, how are you gonna better serve the populace that you have to serve? Because you just said, why would we join Will if we can't connect out there? Well, how?
I'm
can
sorry, could I
you-
interrupt for a moment? Could
Sure.
somebody take down the presentation and go full screen on the camera, please?
For everybody know that's Austin, he's the
Oh,
trustee for Hudson.
I think we're about ready-
Pleasure.
we're ready to wrap it up here, Austin. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause before we adjourn here?
I think Austin does.
Austin, what you got? Hello?
Oh, I've just been listening and enjoying.
Ah.
Michael's there for me. Thank you, Michael, for being there. And I mean, I agree with. I didn't catch the last lady who was speaking's name, but I'm in agreement with some concerns about growth. And yeah, I'd like to know more, but I trust Michael. Michael's my appointee, so.
Oh, I thought you had a I thought you had a comment. Sorry, that's.
All right.
Please say one last thing here.
Okay.
I want to know if Andrea has any thoughts on it, we go over it. He's been very valuable.
He's more knowledgeable on this sort of thing, but I do think that the fleet and department analysis probably should be distributed to the town council as soon as possible, because I'm not sure, maybe Jerry and Marcy have a familiarity, maybe they don't, but certainly
Probably we don't.
the other members don't, and I think that that would be useful.
I agree.
Well, yeah, and probably ask you guys to come. We could get a meeting together and just to explain all this. It's a lot of moving
It
parts.
should be for the Hudson Lake Board and the Township Board as well. too.
I
mean,
Yeah.
It should be.
Can I describe a process that, we just went through with our fire chief?
Sure.
They did the assessment and the study. And so, what the chief did is sent out the assessment and the study, but again, it's like listening to a banker use acronyms, right? So what he did is just put in a memo highlighting the important areas and the certain components of the study while also providing the study. And then provided, we have 2 stations that we have to do. And we're having the same discussions. So, we're gonna move forward with a station this year. So just a memo recapping the study with the study, so it helps bring it down to a more concise document. And then and then the study identified generally where the station should go, right? And so they'll have that data. And then also provide just a general description based on the study of what the station specific building needs are. And I think that provides a lot of the answers that you guys may have.
Josh, how old is that? Is that a couple of years old?
Mhm.
I mean, you asked me about it. I'm sure I
I mean-
saw it, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, we were, the gentleman from New York was here. He presented that.
Yeah,
the whole
that's
right.
piece of that, yeah.
Okay, well,
There's a lot of science behind it. There's just a lot of science behind it, so.
Yeah, there's an actual study that was done. I can't remember the university that did it. It's quite dated right now, but it's still very accurate.
if you want, just email it to all our board members and then they can send it out to
I think
their.
it'd be helpful because clearly with the questions asked, there's not a familiarity with it.
No, there isn't.
Maybe there was, but there isn't now, and I think that would help.
Refresh,
And I really like Mitch's suggestion of
refresh the page.
summary of the high points. I don't know if you have that, maybe that was part of it. I don't know if it comes with a high level summary or if that's
Yeah,
something.
well, actually, we'll have a 1-page document
Okay.
that goes along with it, the based on recommendations and.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But that gives them an opportunity to look at that again and also as a full council and invite Hudson Lake and I think that would be really,
And to make it clear that the $30,000 is money from the operating fund, fire territory, is that correct?
Should be from the
Or township?
Equipment.
equipment replacement fund.
Equipment
Fire
replacement
territory.
fund, fire territory,
Yeah.
to make sure that the vote as far as the town council would be on just to move forward with it. It's not something that's out of our pockets, the town's pockets directly.
Anything else? Bob Middlebrook, where are you?
Right here, man, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Favorite time of the night.
It's been moved and seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The
I thank
motion
you,
is-
gentlemen, very good.
Appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you for having us out there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Just.
It's just great.
I gotta take this guy there. I gotta take these guys there.
So do you?
IT township. Actually. Oh, yeah, yes, yes. What's the Senate bill basically? So the million, you know, because it's all.